All right, there's Matt. There's Julie on her cell phone.
And I'm videoing too, just in case that dies.
And there's our fifth person, and I'm in the back of the camera here.
All right, I'm going to go and get started and just jump right in. Thank you all for coming. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. That was said by Franklin D. Roosevelt. Today I'm going to share with you some interesting facts about poverty. Why is this important to you? Poverty affects everyone, all of us. It's not just a problem in developing countries. It's a problem right here in our own country, in our own state, in our own city. Many college students don't believe they can help in the ending of poverty, or they think that what little help that they can provide doesn't make a difference. Often, that belief comes from not understanding fully what poverty even is. I'm hoping to help bring some of the truths about poverty to you today. Who knows, by the end of this, you might even want to join the fight to help end poverty. Serving those in need is something that is near and dear to my heart. I work for an organization that is dedicated to helping bring hope to those in poverty, specifically and especially children. Today I'm going to inform you about poverty. I'm going to tell you what poverty is, give you some definitions, tell you some of the causes of poverty, and tell you who is affected by poverty. So, to start, what is poverty? Dictionary.com defines poverty as the state or condition of having little or no money, goods, or means of support, the condition of being poor. The World Bank talks about poverty strictly in economic terms. However, the poor themselves describe poverty as suffering relationships, marginalization, dependence, scarcity, restricted rights and freedom, and incapacity. That information came from the Compassion International website, compassion.com. Some of the effects of poverty are poor health. Malnutrition makes up over 45% of all deaths of children. Diarrhea is one of the top 10 causes of death for over 1.5 million people annually. Diseases such as malaria and tuberculosis claim the lives of hundreds of thousands of people per year. Abuse is another of the effects of poverty. Children specifically living in poverty often experience abuse. There are different types of abuse. There's neglect, there's sexual, spiritual, physical, and mental abuse. There's also exploitation and child labor. Now I've told you a little bit about what poverty is. I'd like to tell you what some of the causes of poverty are. Epidemic diseases and abuse, for example, are effects, but they're also causes of poverty. Interestingly, many of the effects of poverty are also the causes of poverty. This causes a vicious cycle that is very hard to break, which traps people and families for generations in the cycle of poverty. Food and agricultural issues are another cause of poverty. Natural disasters such as droughts, floods, and typhoons often just completely cripple the workforce as well as create a lack of availability of food. Some of the regions that experience these severe disasters, the disasters are so severe and so long lasting that it's really hard for them to recover from those without help. Corruption is another cause of poverty. Over $1 trillion every year worldwide is spent on bribes. That was a staggering number to me. That information comes from an article in the Journal of Business Ethics by Augustine Nois-Buzor. The Gale Group published an article called, ironically, Poverty, about a point of view called the culture of poverty theory. That theory says that there are cultural attitudes that actually discourage economic success, and that's passed from generation to generation. For example, children growing up or living in those circumstances wouldn't have exposure to the job market. Therefore, as they're growing up, they wouldn't have the means or understanding to take advantage of economic opportunities that may arise. So now we've talked a little bit about what poverty is and some of those definitions. I've told you some of the causes of poverty. And I'd like to tell you one more interesting fact about poverty, and that's who is affected by poverty. You can probably already guess, based on the information I've given you, that everyone is affected by poverty. Poverty is a huge cause of social tensions, particularly over income inequality. This is not just a third world problem. Western countries are beginning to see and feel the pressures of income inequality, and they're seeing that through riots and clashes all over the place now. Crime is another common effect of poverty that can affect each and every one of us. Any of us at any time could be a victim of could be the victim of a crime rooted in poverty. When people don't have enough money, the government often steps in to help with basic needs such as food, health care, and shelter. When the government steps in to help, that cost is picked up by the citizens who then are actually paying for those provisions. So that's where we as well come into some of that. So again, just as a refresher, we talked a little bit about poverty today. I gave you some information. I gave you some definitions of what poverty is. I've talked about some of the causes of poverty, and I told you who's affected by poverty. I hope this information has been useful and insightful to all of you. Thank you so much for coming.